Well, thank you everybody for coming this morning. I'm Dave Moravec with the Colerain Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate you coming so early in the morning, having breakfast and getting an opportunity to meet and greet others in the community. There is some coffee left in the back, and certainly the food is available throughout the program. On the, I guess it would be your left at the end of each table, if you can pass those down, we'll be talking about the Team Up to Green Up program. The programs were outside, but I want to make sure everybody has one of those. I'll make introductions in just a moment to our guest speakers, but I'll turn this over to Dean Ferrier from Rumpke.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Dean Ferrier with Rumpke. I'm kind of our municipal public sector specialist. Account rep, lots of titles, so I get along well with chambers and a lot of government meetings, if you will. So thanks for joining us today. Thanks for the Colerain Chamber of Commerce as usual, and Dinsmore supplying the food, I believe. Rumpke moved in this building in January of 19, so we're nearing 3 years here. The intent of the building was to Rumpke to grow into the building. We've grown significantly over the last 3 years. I believe we're approaching 4,000 employees. I just heard that recently. I've been here 11 years. I think we were at 2,300 employees 11 years ago. So we were up to 14 landfills, 12 recycling centers in our 4-state region. Again, plans to keep densifying the region that we're in, the footprint that we're in, not growing too far out of the boundaries. Lastly, Dave already mentioned the Team Up to Green Up. I'm kind of been facilitating, leading that committee group out of the chamber. I'm extremely proud of what we've accomplished. I'd look to continue to do that for many years to come. We'll keep growing it, adding to it. If anybody has any questions on that, go ahead and talk to me. Geoff Milz has been a big part of it, Dave, of course. It's been great so far, so 7 months in, and we'll keep moving with it. So thanks again for joining. Appreciate it.
Next, I'd like to introduce Rick Porowski, partner with Dinsmore and Scholl.
Thanks, Dave. Great seeing everybody here this morning. I'm Rick Porowski from Dinsmore. I'm going to let my partner, Katie, say a word or two. The main thing we want to do is just say thank you for letting us host, tell you about an event that we're also hosting with the Chamber on November 11th, and go from there. But I do commercial litigation and business disputes at Dinsmore. Been at Dinsmore for 25 years, grew up in Cheviot on the west side, and live right here in Colerain Township.
Hi, I'm Katie, and I've been at Dinsmore for about 10 years. I live over in Stone Ridge Estates, and for those of you who know Jeff Baker, I'm Jeff's neighbor. We love Colerain Township. I'm in the labor and employment group at the firm, so we handle your typical wage and hour, discrimination, class action, defense, mostly suits, and my personal specialty is worksite compliance. So if you know anyone who needs assistance with I-9s, ICE raids, audits, that type of work, let me know. I also handle business-based immigration. Thank you.
In terms of November 11th, it's going to be an event we're going to have after hours. I think it begins at 5 p.m., maybe 5:30. At the Colerain Senior Center, we're going to have some beverages, some beer, some wine, have some social time. There will be a presentation from Mrs. Groggins-Greer, very short, very light, about corporate culture and the effect that that can have on your business. And then we'll have a presentation that will make sure it is updated for the latest employment law issues. Who knows if there will be a nationwide mask mandate, but we'll certainly focus on the Biden administration effect on employment law. So we hope you'll be there. We look forward to seeing you.
Thanks so much, Rick. Thanks, Rick. Just a couple of quick announcements. I will keep them short. We do have Dana from Waycross Media, who is recording for this morning. That's awesome that they came out. And Chris Armstrong is here taking pictures from Chris Armstrong Photography. So our local media is here. Working backwards, February 17th is going to be our hosted awards dinner. It's going to be at Pebble Creek, the third Thursday in February. We've pushed it back because of the COVID situation and an opportunity for us to revamp this event. We anticipate that it will be as large or larger than the Hometown Hero and previous awards banquet. So put that on your calendar, February 17th. October 27th, we're working on a trip to the Rumpke Recycling Facility down in St. Bernard. They've been able to host only a handful of groups, and we've been selected on that Wednesday, the 27th, and can only host 30 people. So that is going to be posted. We're working on transportation so that all of us can go in one vehicle rather than driving 30 vehicles down to St. Bernard. So there'll be more to follow with that. Lastly, the Candidates Forum for the trustees is going to be hosted by Waycross Media. And rather than hosting our own event, we in partnership with them are asking the business community to provide questions that you'd like the candidates to be able to answer. So I'll be making a call for that in our October newsletter. I'll probably make a solicitation in various other places, but I'm asking you as business leaders, if you have something that you want our trustees to address as a business question, it's up to us as the business community to step up and on behalf of all, ask those kinds of questions, and their forum is a wonderful one. It's been taking place for 40 years. Again, a special thanks to B&B Riverboats and the current catering for providing the food, and obviously for Dinsmore for sponsoring. So without further ado, kind of in a championship introduction format. First, from the Township of Colerain, we have Geoff Milz, our administrator. Up next, from Butler Tech, we have CEO Jon Graft. And last but certainly not least, our new Superintendent of Schools Northwest Local School District, Darrell Yater.
I know.
So we put this together about a month ago. You all agreed to be able to come out and share some comments about the community, about your organization. And I guess first off, I want to give you an opportunity each to give a commercial for our community, for your organization, for what Colerain offers. So Geoff, first off, you've been here for a long time. Can you give a commercial as to why this is a good place to do business?
Well, it's a wonderful place to do business, and first I'd like to thank Rumpke for hosting us here. This facility is just incredible, and we're so lucky to have a facility like this in Colerain. Second, the troublemakers are supposed to sit in the back. So I didn't get the memo. Colerain Township is a wonderful place to do business, and I'm going to stand up so I can see you guys here. We have a diverse economy, growing from really what was a bedroom community, right? After the war, lots of housing created right after the war in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. A lot of retail and restaurants, quality of life businesses that sprang up to support that. One of the things that we're noticing right now as retail changes significantly is we're starting to see some vacancies in those big boxes, right? You're seeing that all over the country, and certainly here is no different. But we're changing our focus to start to look more at employment-based jobs and those types of businesses and that type of recruiting. You'll see this was a big project in 2019. This actually anchors an additional 35 acres of industrial park that's ready to be developed. We're actively searching for prospects and working prospects. And right now, I'll tell you, our manufacturers in Colerain Township are going gangbusters. We have 3 major expansion projects from our 3 biggest manufacturers, and it's great to see that sort of macroeconomic trend of onshoring, of producing stuff again back here. It's really, you can see it in Colerain Township. It's really neat to see. Colerain Township is not just a great place to do business, it's a great place to live. Our parks are second to none. Our public safety services are absolutely incredible, and I said this last night at our town hall, but I'm biased, but we have an ISO 1 fire department and a CLIA accredited with excellence to the gold standard, like the best that there is, a police department. And there isn't a place in Ohio that has those 2 things. You're safe, it's beautiful, there's lots of offerings. Colerain's a great place.
John and I met for breakfast about a month or so ago, and he shared his passion for manufacturing and certainly the workforce challenges today. He gets to see it from a different perspective. John, share just your perspective on the manufacturing community and where Butler Tech fits in.
Yeah, so good morning, everybody, and again, thank you for Rumpke for hosting us today, and thanks to the Colerain Chamber for putting on this event. Again, my name is Jon Graft. I'm the Superintendent CEO of Butler Tech. We're a career tech center. We work with Northwest local schools at both their career tech centers at the Northwest High School and Colerain High School as well. Specifically about manufacturing, I think there was this thought that Ohio was somehow the Rust Belt and that we, in some respects, walked away from what we thought was not a good pathway for students. And we're seeing some of the effects of that right now because in manufacturing, sort of the ongoing joke right now is that manufacturing has a hair problem. It's either that people in the industry have all gray hair or no hair at all. And so many of the people are retiring and moving on, and so whether it's a small business or a big business, we're seeing this influx of a lot of our manufacturing companies asking us to put more students into the pipeline, put more students into the pathways, whether it's machining, welding, mechatronics, robotics, and technology is influencing all of those industries. So at Butler Tech, with our 5 campuses, 6 buildings, our adult education that we have, we're at the precipice of making sure that business and industry has that workforce demand and has that workforce pipeline for them. There is a workforce shortage. We know that. If you go out to eat, you go in the service industry, some of those places are drive-through only at this point, and our work really is about giving students future-proof jobs. And how we do that is we connect with businesses in the region, including businesses that are in Colerain Township. So excited to be here and have some conversation with all of you today. Thanks.
Darrell and I also had an opportunity to meet for breakfast at the Red Squirrel, which, by the way, commercial for the Red Squirrel, they may open today. I was there yesterday afternoon and talked to John, and I think they're all systems close to go, so if not today, tomorrow. So great news for them. But Darrell and I had an opportunity to meet for lunch at the Red Squirrel over the summer before you actually were announced as the full superintendent, had been interim at the time. And I wonder, it's been quite a transition for you. How's it going so far?
Thanks for giving me the loaded question. Thanks for having us here this morning, and I just want to thank all of you for being here and being interested in learning more about what we do. Northwest Schools is an amazing school system. I came to Northwest over 20 years ago, and it was the 3rd school system I worked for as a teacher, and I started at White Oak. And it is an amazing place that is a family-oriented feel. And so when I came to Northwest, I found this home and this family in the community here. And our district is large enough to have the ability to gather resources, but small enough to have that community feel. So our schools have that unique identity that's linked to the community they serve, because schools are microcosms of the communities in which they're in. And so we reflect everything about the community within the walls of our schools. And it's important that we continue to engage and partner with businesses and parents and community members to really understand what the community wants from the schools. Because our students, pre-K-12, are graduating into the community, into the workforce, and we need to be developing the kinds of students who graduate that are good matches for the employers in this area. We went through and developed a strategic plan about 5 years ago, and we asked the community, what do you value in schools? And 5 areas came out. Student achievement, we're a school. We want all kids, and all means all kids to have high expectations and high achievement levels. That we need to focus on developing the whole child and understanding the social emotional development of students, and that we need to make sure that our teachers don't just teach content, they teach kids. And that means some days they take time to help kids prepare to learn before they actually teach them to learn. Then the diversity, equity, and inclusion, that we have a diverse population that we serve, we're in a diverse community, and we need to make sure that we recognize value and understand the diversity, but also create equity so that everyone gets what they need, when they need it, how they need it. That not every kid needs a book that's on the grade level. Some need one that's a little bit more advanced, and some need some additional supports. And then that we have financial stability in this district, that we align our resources to our priorities, that we are fiscally responsible, and that we are engaging with the community and understand our resources and how we align them. And that we create a culture of trust, that the best way to develop trusting relationships is through relationships and being able to engage and talk and be in spaces like this where we can talk and understand each other's needs so that we can support those as we develop the students that are going to graduate into the community. So we are excited for what we do. We have amazing students, families, and teachers and staff. So we are excited to be a partner with the Chamber, with the Township, and with Butler Tech.
Thanks so much, Darrell. I've got a series of 4 topics that we're going to address. The first one is probably the most challenging today, at least in this 2021 period, and that's the topic of COVID. You get questions each and every day, all 3 of you, about COVID, your response for kids, the workers that you have, our community. But from your perspective, what do you see as far as the fall and the winter is concerned, and addressing it? First off for you, Darrell.
And the hardball again. Take on the new guy. So, as a school district, obviously our primary concern is kids and our staff. We have a COVID response plan that we put together to try to be transparent with the community about data we're going to monitor. We value local decision making and local data, so we really looked at what local data we could track that would be able to inform us about different things that we need to do to keep kids safe. Our primary focus is that we keep our schools open, we keep our schools in person, and we keep them looking as normal as possible. We want kids changing classes, we want them doing science experiments, we want them working in groups because we know cooperative learning and being able to work with people is a skill that needs to be developed and cultivated through the entire educational experience. So as we continue to navigate these uncharted waters, these turbulent times, whatever you want to call them, those 3 things have been the forefront of how we've tried to navigate this year, and we will continue to do everything that we can to make sure that our kids stay in person and that they stay working in school and school looks as normal as possible from an educational standpoint so that we can continue to educate the kids of our future.
John, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I commend Darrell for the work that he's done in Northwest Local Schools and how they've handled COVID. One of the things that we have the advantage a little bit is that all of our students are between grades 7 all the way through 12, so all of our students and staff are eligible for the vaccine. We have an optional mask policy on our campuses. But what I would really like to reflect upon is that if you go back to March of 2020, there were a number of school districts that had been doing the same thing for probably 150 years. I think there are 2 exceptions, at least 2 exceptions. One is Northwest Local Schools and then Butler Tech as well. But some of the lessons that I think we're already learning about how the transition is that students need to be able to access the curriculum from anywhere, whether it's in their home, whether it's in a community trailer park, whether it's an apartment complex, if it's out in a rural area, if it's 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, or 2:30 in the morning, which all of our students at some point in time accessed our curriculum at all of those points in time. So I think the being able to be nimble from a public school perspective, I think became very, very important. And if you think about it, we generally remember that Friday in which we were told that schools were likely to close for a period of time. I think most of us thought it was going to be a couple of weeks, and then we were going to go back. But we've had one-to-one computers since 2007, so we were already in an advantage there. But I also think that Northwest Local Schools and a number of school districts in the area did a remarkable job at adapting really how students access the curriculum. And when you think about what that will turn into in 2030, as to how students will have plenty of choices, plenty of options, so long as they have access to the internet. And that is going to be the new commodity for students to be able to access the curriculum. That's going to be the new public utility, so to speak, because it is the only way that we get equal access for students to access the curriculum, to adapt to some of the new and changing industries, how technology is impacting both manufacturing, healthcare, and any industry that you're a part of, technology is impacting that. And the same goes with school systems. So I think the districts have varying responses. What I can say is that all of us are doing our very best to keep kids safe and give them the greatest experiences that they have in order to have a future-proof employment and job for their future.
And Geoff, you certainly have, with the fire and EMS, the large staff that you have, talk to us about the responses and the changes over the last 18 months and where you see this going.
Yeah, so my greatest fear as we went into this was, we would have COVID rip through one of our firehouses and we'd have to brown out service, right? That was same again for police, because you can't do those jobs from home, right? It's hard to respond by Zoom to an emergency. So very early on, we pulled together a group, a COVID task force basically, and sat down and went through all of our processes, just like everybody, just like all of you. We went through all of your processes and said, how do we continue to provide this service, and what are our contingency plans? Because frankly, the level of risk is a little bit higher when you're the guy that's in the back of the ambulance with a patient taking them to the hospital. So from our fleet maintenance and figuring out new ways to filter the air in the back of the ambulance, to different ways of patrolling and providing police service, we were able to make it happen. And knock on wood, we haven't had those situations where we've had to cut back on service, which is frankly amazing as I think about it now. We did have to pivot a little bit on our public engagement, and that was really one of the most difficult things that I'm sure we all are trying to deal with, is how do we continue to engage with, in many cases, your customers, or in our case, our residents, to be providing the services that they demand. And we've done, just last night we had a virtual town hall. It's hard to get folks to when we're competing, we're on the screen over here, and Monday Night Football's over here. It's hard to compete, but we're trying, and we encourage all of you to continue to engage. Next, here's a quick advertisement. October 4th, we're having our final town hall as it relates to budget for next year, so please, 6:30, October 4th, please come join us in this new COVID world of Zoom town halls.
Well, you've got the microphone, leave that over there. Because in front of you is a flyer that's relatively new about the clean, green, and prosperous initiative that the township has. Just share your experience, Geoff, and the resources outside of the township that have been brought in to help this community.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a really remarkable year. The way that we organize our work at the township is through a strategic plan, and we ask our trustees, Trustee Rajagopal is here today, what their top priorities are for the next year, and then we figure out how to take the 250 people that we have and $40 million and put those resources towards accomplishing their goals. This year, the big theme is clean, green, and prosperous, as Dave mentioned. And what we're starting to see, this is probably the 4th year that we've done this sort of strategic planning process. And what we're seeing is this amazing alignment in our community around township goals. And so, as we talk about green, we have the chamber just latched right onto that, and the businesses, obviously there's been a demand for green initiatives and latent that's just been sitting there. The business community, and Dean Ferrier is the leader of this group, thank you Dean, has just dug in and said, we want to be a part of the solution. We don't like the litter either. Our businesses want to be a part of the solution. We're tired, we want to soften the concrete gray, sort of drab corridors also. Let's invest in street trees, we believe in that. And that alignment of the business community, and then on the other side, we have our neighborhood groups that are stepping up and really getting behind these things. And truly, that's the only way that we make change in our community, is when government, business, and our residents come together to solve big problems. That's how it gets done. I don't believe that any one of us could do it by ourselves. And it really, I'm telling you, it's one of the best feelings to see this energy being put into something that's going to be transformational. And I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. The website has a place for you to sign up for one of 53 adoptive block pieces of the community up down Colerain Avenue, Springdale, Pippin, and other locations. And if you're able to help, that's tremendous. But if you can share the story with others, that'll go a long way. Rumpke Waste and Recycling has started off our Street Trees program with $1,000 to get that started. Our goal is to accumulate about $10,000 towards the Street Tree program. The Township has already amassed through grants and other programs about $35,000 or $45,000.
We just got another grant from the Duke Foundation for another $5,000, which brings us up to $60,000.
That's awesome. So if we had 50 people in the community, 50 businesses that donated $200, we'd be at our goal. If we had 200 businesses that donated $50, we'd be at our goal. So consider finding that on our website and take a look at that.
And Dave, there's one other partner I just want to mention real quick as it relates to cleaning up our community. People working cooperatively, and Ron Highline is in here in the back. Every year we have a Community Give Back Day where we go out into the community and clean up yards for typically elderly folks or folks that don't have the resources to do that. And it makes a huge difference in their lives, but it also makes a difference in our community. So we always appreciate, again, another example of that alignment that just is what it takes to get stuff done.
John, on the topic of strategic planning and working within the community, tell us about some of the really cool projects, because I get to see in the business advisory committee, I get to hear some of those stories, but share some here with the group.
You know, one of the things that, piggyback off of what you said, was the connection in the community, I think, is really important. So for our students, we started what was called Fifth Day Experience. We readily admit that the old education model doesn't work, the sit and get model doesn't work. Experiential learning is the best approach for students to get some hands-on learning. Yes, we have state-of-the-art labs, and we have wonderful instructors that come from industry, but we also know that the students' greatest experiences in both high school and in our adult education programs is to be out in the workforce. So we adapted our academic schedule and our career lab schedule to be Monday through Thursday. Friday is a fifth day experience day, and students are out in the community, either giving back to a community or doing some philanthropy. They're either in an internship, a co-op, or they're working a full day shift at their full-time work that they're doing related to their career tech programming. It was a way to connect with our community, knowing that we wanted them to get out and learn what was happening in their community. Secondly, we know that the best learning occurs with hands-on experience and that experiential learning, and learning from the people in those trades that have done it for years and years and years. So it's been a tremendous success for us. We've had some responses from small companies, large companies that want to continue with those efforts of giving students those experiences. I would say that the second thing that we've done is we have a dedicated workforce services office. And I have my assistant superintendent here, Marty Durham. Any businesses that are in the audience that you're saying we have a workforce shortage, we have a need, you need some succession planning, we can connect with you and help you in those ways about connecting with students to learn about your industries. The latitude that my board president, Michael Birding, who is also in the audience, gives us to do some of these creative things is paramount, because we know that the public education has been a little bit stifled. I think some from legislative aspects, but also just in some fixed mindsets. And I think Butler Tech, and I think Northwest Local Schools is a credit to them as well. We're doing some things that we know that our business partners and getting students pathways to both college, career, or into the military are our essential goals. We want students to have lifelong learning, that line of demarcation of ending high school and either going to industry for 30 years. They're going to change industries. You know, the recent statistics say that 47% of the current jobs in existence are going to be phased out due to technology. And that 65% of students that are currently secondary high school students will work in industries that do not yet exist. And so when you think about that and think about how you have to be nimble and how you have to shift and adapt and learn from business and industry about what those trends are, whether it's binder jetting or Internet of Things or how 5G technology is going to change manufacturing, which manufacturing is the third largest industry. In Ohio, it's third in the United States, behind California and Texas. So these industries are changing, and we know that we have to adapt all of those structural things that public schools have been used to doing, batching kids by age, by chronological age, and then 180 days they've all learned the same thing, and then the state assesses all of them on the same thing. That's not our world, that's not our reality, and we're working towards dismantling that old model of education.
Thinking about facilities and structure, the Northwest Local School District is embarking on assessment of physical space. Can you share what you found out so far and what you hope to accomplish with this process?
Yeah, so we have a master facility plan, and we had one that was established in 2014 that was outlining the future direction of facilities for our district. Out of that plan came the three new elementaries that we built. State-of-the-art that have a lot of the 21st century techniques and competencies that Jon described. Flexible spaces, being able to connect with the outdoors, being able to have spaces where they can be hands-on, maker spaces where they can actually build and construct and experiment with their hands. So we're very proud of those spaces. We're in the process of taking that 2014 master plan and updating that and really trying to engage with our parents, our students, and our community and our business leaders to say, what do we need to do moving forward? Our process has three prongs to it. One has to be educationally appropriate. So we are engaging with all of our teachers and our staff and our parents and our students to talk about what do you envision education looking like in the future. Because when we build buildings, they're not there for a short amount of time. Colerain Elementary is approaching 100 years. We need to be able to have facilities that are flexible and adapt to the vision of where we're going educationally. A lot of what Jon just laid out in terms of the flexibility that's needed to nimbly adapt as things change. So we're engaging on that educational piece. The second piece is around the community support. So where do we see the vision of our facilities going? And how do we take that and match it to the educational programming that's going to need to fit in those buildings? And we also have to have the financial stability of it. So really looking at those three phases, educationally appropriate, fiscally responsible, and community supported. Because they're going to be in the community for a long time. And we need to make sure that the community supports the direction that the buildings are going, the kinds of infrastructure we're building, and the flexibility to adapt to the ever-changing educational landscape. So as we go through this process, we've had two teams that have been working concurrently. An educational visioning team, really visioning what the education looks like in the future, and a community advisory team that's really advising us on that long-term facility plan in terms of how do we take what the education says they need and merge it with the actual bricks and mortars and the facilities. That those committees have been coming together and kind of dovetailing their work so that those two things match. The third prong to that is community support. So as we get deeper into the process, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be sending surveys out saying here are some of the visions that have been cast in terms of what the facilities might look like in the next 20 to 30 years. And we're going to need a lot of community engagement and support with understanding what the community wants so that we continue to merge the community's expectations with the financial responsibility from the district and the education that we're trying to provide. So that process is kind of coalescing in the next couple of weeks with a survey where we're really going to ask for people to truly engage authentically with your opinion about which of the plans you think is most appropriate as we plan out that next phase of the district and the community.
Thank you. Next topic is workforce development. There's not a day goes past that I don't talk to a business owner here that is challenged with a workforce-related issue. Can't staff my place, so I have to close my business a certain number of hours or allow only so many people into my business. And there are many people in that challenge right now. What I'm wondering from you, and I'm not sure which of you wants to address it first or if any of, or all three of you want to, but what can we as a business community do in partnership with your respective organizations to help that? What can we do in the business community to help the students and help that particular situation?
I'll start and then kick it off to the other two. We've actually been focusing on the way we organize our curriculum. So we did Portrait of a Graduate, and we asked for our community to really identify what are those competencies that people truly expect our students to develop over the course of their pre-K-12 time with us. And what are those competencies that need to be there when they leave us to prepare them for enlistment, enrollment, and employment, and to make sure that they have a true path that is viable based on those competencies. Things like empathy, problem solving, collaboration, learner's mindset. So those things are things that we are now working to develop into all of our classrooms pre-K-12 to make sure that those skills and competencies are embedded in the content and the how of what we do. And so our students are graduating with those competencies that make them marketable for the employers in the area. As we start doing that, being able to teach in that way where students are going to have to collaborate, problem solve, and work together is going to require students to solve problems. So being able to engage with our community around what problems do you see from a township, from a business perspective, that our business partners become classroom partners and are helping our kids understand how to take the skills that they're learning and the competencies that they're developing and applying that in a way that is meaningful to the real world, where they can actually see the intersection of how all of these things connect, that continue to grow them in a way that when they graduate, they truly do have a pathway to employment, enlistment, or enrollment based on the path they've chosen for themselves that is viable and sustainable for them. So being a continued partner and allowing us to engage with you around the problems you see that we can help solve is the next step for us as an educational system in order to adhere to and really realize the goals that we've set forth in our strategic plan, our Portrait of a Graduate, and our master facility process, because the facilities have to be able to support the kinds of problems that you want us to solve with you as we move forward.
So I may end up upsetting some of the businesses that are in the room by what I'm going to say. Just as schools need to change and adapt, businesses need to change and adapt as well. If you're putting a sign in your corporate office that says apply within and expecting 80 people to line up and apply for your positions, good luck. It's just not going to happen. Students want choice, graduates want choice, employees want choice. I've had employers say, well, we work 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, we've done it for 40 years. And what I've said to them is, you will not do it for 40 more, because that's just not the generation of students. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a shift and an adaptation for what people have for expectations about work-life balance. What I would also say is that, we've heard this word a couple of times, partnerships. If you're not engaged with your local school district, or with your career tech center, or with your community college, or with your four-year universities, you need to do so. The best way in which you're going to create a pipeline of employees is that they know your business, They know your LLC, they know your corporation, they know what that job description means. You know, I was recently at a Manufacturing Strong event in downtown Cincinnati, and one of the speakers said the way in which the newest generation of students who are looking for jobs are going to find what that business is about through YouTube. Now, most of you would have thought Monster, Indeed, and all of the other, LinkedIn. I'm sorry, there may not be a 20-year-old on LinkedIn at this point in time.
TikTok.
TikTok, yes. But what I'm saying is just as much as schools need to adapt, businesses need to adapt as well. And I would encourage you to connect with your local school district, to connect with Butler Tech. One of the events we're putting on is November 2nd. All of our staff members, we are encouraging them as part of their professional development as educators, is to go into a business that they have not yet formed a partnership with, to understand what that business is about, so that when they hear what the job description is, they've also seen it. And they know how that translates to the curriculum that they're teaching in their classroom. So I would encourage you to connect with us on November 2nd. Allow our teachers to also be students and learn about the industries that you have in Colerain Township.
I'll add one more thing, and coming into this community, it was something that I found out really quickly, is that people stay in this community. So if you're doing business across this community, those students who go to Xavier, go to UC, go to Miami or OSU, they're coming back. And those are the students that if you're touching them at the 7th, 8th grade level with job shadowing or a Bring Your Child to Work Day program, they're going to come back and remember those giving opportunities. So even the littlest of interactions can make a difference. Geoff, while you've got the microphone, what can we as a community do to attract? You mentioned the additional 35-acre park here. Certainly changes are taking place everywhere that has a mall. We have Northgate community and we have empty businesses. How can we as a business community attract more businesses?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something that I think about frequently.
And we talk about it.
And we talk about it a lot. You know what's interesting? So I've had the opportunity to do this kind of work in 3 different states, at the county level, at a city level, and township level. It's really fascinating to me, some of the observations that I've been able to make. So for example, when I was in the city of Covington, they had a relatively high income tax, right? And we used to do these little games where we're trying to, get real estate tax up, and so we'll cut income tax for a business or whatever. In Colerain Township, we don't have an income tax. So you'd think that that would position us pretty well from the attraction perspective. That's not why businesses make locational decisions. Businesses that I've seen, and we've been most successful, make locational decisions based on amenity, on quality of life, on an opportunity to have a really cool restaurant to go at lunch, or a cool trail network to bike to after work, right? More and more, and particularly the younger generation, cares more about how their life is going to be than showing up at an industrial park someplace and clocking in and clocking out, right? Because that's such a huge part of our lives, and we want that to be interesting. And so to answer your question, Dave, I really do believe that investments in amenity and quality of life, cool places, cool things, experiential things, that is the differentiator. And I'll give you a very concrete example. CTI is a company that tests new drugs that come onto the market, right? And we were, when we were recording them in Covington, the biggest thing that they wanted was that trail that's running along the 5 cities in northern Kentucky. They loved, and they also loved the urban experience and just having all the stuff that they could get to. So how does that translate to Colerain Township? Well, we've created a Main Street trail. We're trying very hard at Northgate Mall to vary. The next iteration of Northgate Mall will not be a regional big box mall. It will be something that is integrated with a lifestyle, living opportunities, places to enjoy, a meal, and also experiential entertainment venues. Those are the types of mixes that people are looking for, not just in where they want to live, community they want to live in, but where they want to work.
And John, maybe you can address this as well, because I know you work across a larger region than Colerain. Maybe share some of the exciting things that are going on in other communities that are innovative that you see that might attract businesses to this area and Colerain specifically?
Two things that I know that Butler Tech is specifically involved in is that we've made proposals for public-private partnerships. We know that advanced manufacturing has continued to grow in this area, as well as aviation is impacting everywhere, and specifically in this region. So we've made a proposal to the Butler County Commissioners to build an advanced manufacturing facility that is in partnership with for-profit businesses, so students will have experiential learning. They'll learn on the latest and greatest equipment. Businesses, for-profit businesses, will help us with development of the curriculum to make sure that we're advancing at the speed and pace at which we need to advance. And that's a proposal that's in the Hamilton city area. And then in the city of Middletown, we have made a proposal at their airport, their municipal airport, Hook Field, to build an aviation education hangar, which again is very similar to what we're talking about, the advanced manufacturing. It's an opportunity for for-profit businesses that are in the aerospace industry or in the aviation industry to partner with us at helping develop that intellectual property, develop that workforce pipeline in these public-private partnerships, which is, it's sort of this, it's a very different thought of when you build buildings for public schools, that you would also embed businesses in that partnership. But we are in, literally, we are in this together. I mean, our goal is to create productive citizens, to create taxpayers, to create students who are passionate about what they do. And we know those two industries are going to continue to grow. Aviation specifically, 10 million people travel a day in aviation. $18 billion worth of goods fly across the skies and land each and every day. And we think, what is that going to be 10 years from now? And so we need to start thinking now about what 2030 looks like, what 2040 looks like, and how these public-private partnerships can come to fruition. And I think you're starting to see that, and the chambers are a great way of connecting those industries together. Education entities with businesses, with four-year universities, community colleges, career tech centers, high schools, for-profit businesses, the township, all of us coming together for those like initiatives that we know are going to better our communities.
Thank you. Before I give the last softball question to Rod, because it is a softball question, I'm just going to let you guys know, I'm going to turn the mic over to you if you've got a question for anyone or for the group. Be thinking about that in the next minute or two. But Darrell, last thing, with regard to the workforce and the business community, volunteerism is down. Opportunity to give back at the community Give Back Day and other opportunities is down. Volunteering in the schools has been challenged because we can't go into the building and read to a classroom anymore. What kinds of things can we do to give back to your school?
So I think when we talk about that, volunteerism and engagement being down, being able to re-engage in different ways. Jon talked about having to reimagine what we do. And a lot of times, being able to do that connection either outside of school, bringing us to events, being able to connect in ways, even through virtual support. We have a lot of opportunities where we can bring experiences and people to our students so that they start to see the connection between what they're learning and what they can be doing in the future. And that connection is really important and powerful. And the more we can have partners who are willing to share their resources and expertise and time to bring that to our students, to open up a world of possibilities. I taught middle school. Every middle school student thought they were going to be a professional athlete, a vet, or a doctor. And so being able to open up a world of possibilities that they don't even think of at that point, that they don't even know exist yet, and opening those ideas and opportunities for them to dream is a really powerful tool that as you think of ways that you connect with us, being able to bring that to our students so that they start to see themselves in different roles other than professional athlete, doctor, or vet. So being able to open up your industry to us so that our kids can see themselves in what you do would be an amazing way to partner.
Even at the Chamber of Commerce, we've had 2 students, Analu Gaynor and her sister Grace, who have volunteered their time, and we've been able to help them in different ways. But both of them are looking for an experiential place to mark on the resume. They're looking for something to be able to tell their next potential employer, I've done this at age 17. And if we even have our Facebook page managed by somebody like that, and be able to give that student an opportunity to experience the interaction with the business community who provides the post for the day, we're giving back to those students. So I've been blessed to have those 2 students working with me and being able to work with the Butler Tech business program. So with that, any questions from the audience? Kathy Smith from Sipsey Klein.
I was just curious on that 5th day experience. If we wanted to be involved in that or had some ideas, who would we contact through Butler Tech to ask our questions to?
Okay, so you can either contact me, direct, I can give you my card after today's meeting, or you can, Maureen, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand, she's in charge of our workforce services department. I will tell you, you said Sipsey Klein?
Well, Sipsey Klein, and then I also have Wildflower Ranch, and my daughter did the horse Butler Tech thing.
The Klein Science
Yeah,
Program,
so I
awesome.
have Tim Sparrow and all this. So it's like one of those where like,
Yeah, so an interesting twist, we met a commercial real estate developer recently over the past couple of months, just networking at an event. And he is actually, one of his 5th day experiences, he's going to be teaching real estate courses for our high school students in order for, and then he's going to select a couple of those students for an internship at his commercial real estate firm. So there are plenty of ways that you can get involved. Look forward to it.
My question would be this, and could be a whole other topic, but what struggles do you have on, getting the students to focus on the future and the other jobs? I mean, I just feel like you could get into the whole thing, substance abuse, social issues, focus on, I don't know, peer issues, but it seems like you guys have a great mindset for the future. How do you struggle with getting students to focus on that as well?
First, I think there is somewhat of a misperception about today's youth. I think that we've made this assumption because they're different and they're wired literally differently than the way our brains are wired, because they have never known a world without an iPad. And they've never known a world without streaming Netflix. Netflix didn't even get into Canada until 2010. So they don't know a world differently. The conflict occurs when we see people in charge who believe that adaptation is somehow wrong. And I think that there's a way that you can reap profits if you learn to adapt with the coming age of Gen Z or whatever the new generation is going to be, because they're coming whether you like it or not. And in order to shift and adapt that, we need to make sure that our students are well versed about what those industries are. As far as engaging students, again, I think teaching is about having students find their passion, find their purpose, and make an impact on the world, period. And I think we've lost sight that we leave no child left untested. And that is not passionate for me. It's not passionate for me to celebrate a report card that the state has already deemed doesn't necessarily reflect true learning. And so I think that connectivity of getting students to understand what their real passion is, what their purpose in life is, and how they can make an impact on the world, whether it's working in the township, whether it's bettering their citizens or bettering their society, is really the connectivity. And that's the true essence of education, and that's what we're driving and shifting away from those old models.
And I'll follow up on that with just, when we teach, we're not teaching content, we teach kids. And so teaching the whole child. And so for me, what we look at pre-K through 12 is being able to support the whole child. And so those competencies that our community has said they want every kid to graduate with, instilling those in preschool through their entire educational experience, supporting all of the students, because they do have a lot of things coming at them from different areas that is a lot for an adolescent to take in. And so supporting all of that development from the whole child. We can't do that unless we know them. So for me, we have to know every child by name, by story, by strength, and by need. That means that we can individualize for every child that experience and that support so that they can actually have the ability to navigate that educational world and transition that to a work world through either employment enlistment or enrollment, and be able to do that successfully with all of the skills that they need in addition to the content that they should have. So being able to kind of adapt to and adjust to the kids who are in front of us, but doing it in a way that is holistically appropriate for each child through their name, their story, their strength, and their need, so that we can do that appropriately so that they all have access to success.
And I'll add that as a business community, we need to model that behavior so that they know what is or isn't acceptable in the world. There's not a week goes past that I don't hear from an employer that has been ghosted by their potential candidate who's said they're going to come and show up for an interview or fill out an application, and then they just don't show up. And we have to call that out and be able to model the behavior, especially for those families that don't necessarily have a modeling place to do so.
David, just one added comment. And the lessons that we want them to learn are before they leave high school. I mean, if they're going to learn a tough lesson about what it means to, if you're not showing up to work on time, you get fired, I would rather them learn that lesson at 16 than learn that lesson at 23 and 24. Or not attend their classes on the college campus and go in debt $30,000, $45,000 to figure out that you do have to turn in your work and you do have to show up on time. And so we'd rather have them learn those lessons at an earlier age. Every career tech program that's at Northwest and Colerain, every business can hire a 16-year-old in the state of Ohio. And if you say, well, our policies don't allow us to hire anyone under 18, I'll just leave it at that. You're allowed to.
In the interest of time, it's going on quarter till. Tom, I think you've got a question. David's got his hand up. Let's take those two questions, and then Darrell and Jon and Geoff can get on with their day and also potentially be here to answer any individual questions. Tom and then David.
So listening to you, Jon, it sounds like small business hasn't pivoted at all. And yes, they haven't had a lot of time to think about it. It's only been since March of 2020, but it sounds like small business in general needs to pivot in terms of its thinking of how they find employees and develop their employees. So what do you suggest maybe we do as a group to help the general small business out there, quote, pivot, do something different? Because just because they build it, it sounds like they won't come.
I know that in the specific field of manufacturing, because there is such a workforce shortage, and they know that there's even a larger gray wave that's happening of people retiring, even large businesses are working in tandem with small businesses together. I know Rhinestall is a great example. They have a G10 group that they incorporate a lot of small businesses within that group because they know that it's an industry crisis. And they know that it's a zero-sum game if General Tool and Fine Tool and ThyssenKrupp Bilstein and Rhinestall are ultimately, yes, they are in competition in some respects, but if they don't address collectively the workforce shortage, they are all in the lose-lose situation. So small businesses can connect with the larger businesses, and I would say chambers are a great way of connecting those small businesses with those larger industries. I would also add that if succession planning for those small businesses and they're looking to get out of the industry because it was a family business, perhaps a consultant might be able to help them in some way. Maybe know somebody that could help them.
Shameless plug for Tom Gottlieb and the Consulting.
Wow. Gentlemen, there wasn't too long ago when this kind of a forum probably couldn't have happened. And that wasn't many, many years ago. We've done a lot of work in this community around that, integrating the schools, the township, and the business community. What impediments are still in the way that we need to remove or get around that we can continue to fly, so to speak?
Sure, that's a great question. I think, and correct me if somebody else has a different opinion, this is my opinion. Since I've been around the township since 2012, I don't think I've seen a better relationship between the township and the school districts in that time. And I think understanding that our futures are entwined, right? We are approaching the same problems from just different angles and different phases. I think that one of the biggest impediments or advantages to attracting residents to Colerain Township is our school district. People make locational decisions about where they're going to live first and foremost on school district. And so, if we want to attract more people to Colerain Township, we need to be investing in our schools. And if we want to keep them here, we need to be doing a heck of a good job in economic development and making sure that those jobs exist here so that folks have a place to live and work. But I'll tell you what, I think the world of Northwest Schools and Butler Tech, and I think we're doing all right with that.
I'll say communication and relationships. The more we can continue to talk about what each of our needs are, the better we understand each other and how we can actually connect in ways that are meaningful. And so I agree with Geoff that the relationship is as strong as it's ever been and just continues to grow. But I agree with him that we also need to tell our story. That we do have amazing things happening in this community and in our schools. And the more that we can publicly tell our story and shout it from every rooftop about the amazing things that are happening with kids and teachers and staff in all of our buildings, and the amazing things that are happening with development and with business in our area to attract people, that's our collective win, is when we continue to share our stories and our successes, and that we are the loudest voice in the room with that positive message. And so I think we need to continue to work together to not only understand how to support each other, but how to support the message of our area.
And no commercial message for the Chamber of Commerce, but we've added 90 new businesses into our Chamber of Commerce community. And many of you are in the room and you're nodding, because collectively we can do more than individually. We can share resources. We have a lending library now in our office with 600 business titles. If you need a business book, don't go buying it on Amazon. Come looking to me first, because you probably get it for free. Jeremy's got a new book in the back, just recently published. You could buy his new book.
Yeah, buy mine. Don't look by anybody else.
Yeah. But collectively, we're making a difference as a group, and being able to, as a community, do more together. And so I appreciate all three of you being here this morning, taking the time to answer some tough questions and some more softball questions. But thank you all for coming, and have a terrific rest of the day.